another episode of A Rare Reality. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Outreach and Awareness for Jordan's Guardian Angels, and this is a podcast powered specifically by Jordan's Guardian Angels to reach out not only to our families, but to the greater rare disease community as well. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Lexi Levine, who is one of our JGA siblings extraordinaire. If you missed her last podcast with us, certainly is one to listen to. Some great insights for both kids, siblings, adults, you name it. So Lexi, happy to have you here with us. And Emily Holl here with us today from Kindering and the Sibling Support Project and Sib Shops. And Emily, we're so happy to have your expertise and to be talking about this. This is part 1 of 2 of our sibling series. And so for us, directing this specifically toward the kids today. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You know, Lexi, we touched on your last podcast about like how hard it is to be a sibling of a child with rare disease, to all of the different emotions that you go through, all of the things that you've been through. Bring everybody up to speed. If they haven't learned about who you are and your tie to JGA, let us know why it's so important for you.
Yeah, definitely. So my younger brother, Barry, who was born when I was 2, at that time, he was diagnosed with an undiagnosed neurological condition. And he lived out his 16 years of life that way. And throughout his life, he was a very, very happy kid when he was well. But when he was not well, he faced really tough times, including everything from 3-hour-long grand mal seizures to an 11-hour back surgery to countless aspiration pneumonias and everything in between. And my family definitely went on the roller coaster of emotions throughout his life, with all of the ups and downs. And since he passed away, I just try to give back to the community in any way I can. So I'm glad to now be a part of the Jordan syndrome community, where I can give it back directly to the community where I found his diagnosis after he passed away. And I was fortunate enough to meet Emily because I took the Sib Shop training, so I could learn how to deliver Sib Shops to all the Jordan syndrome siblings.
Yeah, we're so excited. This family conference is coming up. It's barreling towards us. So we're really excited about everything you're going to bring to the table too. So Emily, tell us about Sib Shops. For those who have not heard about what you guys are doing there, let us know what that's all about.
Yeah, thank you. So Sib Shops are really our answer for the same kind of common sense peer support that parents get from a good parent to parent program or a parent support group, because we know from the research that one of the major ways that the sibling experience parallels the parent experience is that need to connect with others who are walking a similar path, and the ability to connect and to really benefit from those relationships is very similar for siblings. But Sib Shops are they're created for children. And so they really focus around play. They are, completely fun events for brothers and sisters, typically between the ages of 8 and 13, brothers and sisters of kids with developmental health, mental health concerns. Sib Shops support kind of a broad population of siblings across the United States and at this point around the world. And I think one of the reasons that the Sib Shop sort of formula has been so successful is that it really is information plus support in a highly recreational setting. So, play is really that universal language that Sib Shops center around.
Yeah, so important to get to the heart of things via that. I mean, it's amazing what you'll learn from kids when you just sit back and kind of listen to what the interactions are happening there. Lexi, we're excited that you'll be helping to facilitate that with our JGA family. That's when we have everybody together. Has it been your experience in the past? Because so many of the siblings that we've talked to have said that was the most valuable experience, to have everybody in the same room. Everybody's going through the same thing. Was that your experience too?
Yeah, I actually never got anything similar to this, like while I was going through my experience. So it's going to be new to me. And since I lost Barry, I've started to do more patient advocacy stuff where I've been in similar situations. And like recently I did this panel, and I've never felt so connected to a group of humans in my life. Like they said things that I have only thought in my mind, and somehow they could read my mind. So I definitely am so excited for the summer and to see that same thing happen with all of our Jordan syndrome siblings.
Yeah, Emily, talk about the play portion of this. Like, what can our families expect? What will the kids be doing? How is this structured so that they're able to enjoy themselves while also benefiting?
Absolutely. I think first it's important to recognize that once children are comfortable with the idea of play, right? They are having fun, they're playing games together, that is really when they are able to open up and talk about sort of some of the other experiences they might be having, the ups and downs of having a sibling who might have some different needs. But yeah, I mean, depending on how Lexi wants to structure these, it's a combination of high energy activities, lower energy activities, maybe some arts and crafts, but really scattered throughout those activities are discussion activities. That's really the heart and soul of sib shops, and what makes a sib shop a sib shop. We really want to provide children with the opportunity to talk about, the ups and downs of being a sibling. And we really emphasize both. I mean, sib shops are truly celebrations of the many contributions that siblings make. They're not therapy, they're not pity parties. However, they, as much as they build upon the strengths of siblings, and siblings have so many strengths, and as much as they celebrate all of those unique and wonderful things about being a sibling, we also want sib shops to be a safe space where siblings can come and talk about the hard stuff, with people who get it because they're living it, with people who aren't going to judge, and with people who are going to really validate their experiences. So it's really a combination of a lot of those things. When sib shops first began in 1982, they began with a man named Don Meyer, who is the founder and the first director of the Sibling Support Project, and the creator of sib shops. When he was researching what sibling support models looked like back in the late 1970s and early 1980s, it was really kind of a clinical support group model that involved like a therapist and a circle of folding chairs with little siblings in them and a box of tissues. Yeah. And that didn't really like resonate with the 11-year-old in Don. It didn't seem like, a reason that he would necessarily give up a perfectly lovely Saturday afternoon, for example. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to create a model that, again, is unapologetically playful. And so sib shops really do, I think, for that reason, because they center around that universal language of play. I think that's the reason they've been successful in so many different settings and countries and cultures.
Yeah, no question about it. I think, Lexi, before we started this, we were talking about the fact that it's easy to, as you put it, romanticize that relationship that you had with your sibling, depending on, where you are in life. But, and not always talk about the hard stuff, because the hard stuff is just hard. It's hard to get to, it's hard to bring back up again. So talk a little bit about that, because I know that we've talked about all the good and how amazing Barry was and what his memory feels like to you, but talk about like this. It's hard to be the sibling of someone who has special needs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so many of the things Emily just said resonate with me. Like, I mean, even the positive things, it was hard to talk about with my friends who didn't have a sibling like Barry, because Barry's accomplishments were minor in comparison to their healthy siblings' accomplishments. They like wouldn't really get it if I was like so excited that he learned how to clap his hands at like 6 years old, and then I felt that experience even more so with the hard stuff. So I would say one of the hardest battles that my family kind of went through was making the decision to put Barry into a pediatric nursing home for the last 2 years of his life. And that was particularly hard for me because I felt like my family was giving up on him, and it had been our responsibility to care for him, and I felt like we were doing a big disservice by doing that. And this is like something I regret so greatly, but honestly, I took it completely out on my mom because I felt like she had made the decision. And I was just so angry at the time. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I literally just held it in and barely spoke to my mom for like about 6 to 9 months. And somehow we made it past that. But I remember going to school, like the first week Barry wasn't home, or not in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was in Miss Hanson's history class and someone asked me about my brother, and I immediately just started to cry. And so then immediately the friend said, okay, never mind. I didn't ask. I didn't ask. And there had been a lot of situations like that in the past. And to me, it was just like, okay, this is too hard for them to handle. So I'll just be quiet. And that kind of thing happened all the time. So I just learned over time to keep it in. And I realized as an adult that was not great for my mental health. And I had to do a
Right.
lot of work to kind of get out of that, not just in relation to Barry, but now that's how I handle everything. Like I just keep it in. And so, I think about if I had had a sib shop where I could have gone into the safe space and said, this is really hard right now. And if I had heard someone been like, I'm going through that too, like that just would have made such a difference. I mean, I actually recently joined one of the SibNet groups on Facebook, and I made a post about Barry, and right away someone responded who was wanting to go to medical school just like me and who had just lost her own sib as well. So I can't just stress enough about like the importance of finding that community and finding that safe space to talk about these things.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Emily, I'm sure you see it all the time, and the success of being able to draw out those feelings in a positive way without prying. I mean, I have to imagine that it has to feel good to be able to see that happen too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's one of the really most powerful and most beautiful things about Sib shops is that, as Lexi said, there's safe spaces where sometimes siblings don't even need to talk to connect. Um, we've heard siblings say, it's just so nice to come to a space where I don't need to explain my whole life. People just get it. They get it. I will tell one story or say one thing, and they understand like everything around them, all the context around them. They might not use the word context because they're kids,
Right.
but they do really appreciate the fact that, this is a space where they can just be themselves. First of all, come and be kids. A lot of our young siblings are really carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders and might not have a space to go where they feel like they can share that. Lexi, your experience of, having someone ask you and then immediately, of course, like the tears come because no one else has, right? It's like you're finally your opportunity to kind of let it out. And then it does come out in a way that maybe you didn't expect. And that sort of scares someone off. And then you sort of take this to mean, oh, I should not, I really can't share this burden, right?
Yeah.
Like this person can't handle it. And you go into that mode of wanting to protect everyone else instead of really take care of yourself. And that's something that we hear a lot from siblings. And so sib shops really are spaces where, we want to change that dynamic. We want to create a space where siblings know that they can bring whoever they are that day to a sib shop, say what they need to say, be validated, and be able to move forward. Right? That's what we want. Because kids don't necessarily need to dwell, and they don't necessarily need solutions, right? They don't need these problems to be fixed. Many of these challenges that they're living through and experiencing, they're not things that can be easily fixed, to use air quotes for those of you who are not also watching this. Siblings need a space to be able to share what they want to share and be validated. Siblings want to be heard and validated. And I can't say enough about how powerful that is.
Yeah. Lexi, what's your message for JGA siblings who will be coming to the conference, who are excited to meet you and spend some time with you? What's your message to them?
Well, first, I am just as excited to meet them as well. But second, yeah, just like Emily was saying, like, honestly, come as you are. Like, if that day, if you really have a close relationship with your sib, but that day they woke up and, they maybe physically hurt you or something like that, and you're really upset about it, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Your completely unfiltered opinion, what happened, and we will support you and be whatever you need us to be. I don't have a specific message prepared because I don't want to set the tone for the day in a lot of ways. I want it to be set once we're all together.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm so excited to have everybody in the same place. Emily, for those, before I let you go, for those who aren't coming to the family conference, who will not be with us, how do they, is there another way for them to get involved in sib shops? Because this is very important.
Absolutely. So my role is as director of the Sibling Support Project. We're located right outside of Seattle, Washington, and we are kind of the hub for all things sib shop, right? We created the sib shop model. We train organizations such as yours on how to run sib shops. And we also have a directory of registered sib shops across the country and in different countries around the world. So anyone can come to our website, which is siblingsupport.org, and check out our online directory of registered sib shops. You can read about sib shops, learn more about the sib shop model. We also have a section on our website about publications, and there are really excellent books out there, some of which we have written, some of which we have not written, but we recommend that you can check out for young siblings. There are so many great books, as I mentioned, but also movies and films to learn more about siblings. And we always encourage folks, if there is not a sib shop in your local area and you want to start one, if you're a parent or a professional or an adult sibling like Lexi, I mean, Lexi's like the ideal person to run a sib shop, because we love when adult siblings run sib shops. Come to a training like Lexi did and learn how you can start a sib shop in your community to really support sibs locally. It's such a great honor to work with this population. And I think most of the time facilitators get just as much out of the experience as the children who attend.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be awesome. Thank you both so much for all of your insight today. For the sibling half of this, our next round, we're going to be talking more about the adults, because obviously there's support needed on the other side of it for kids from their parents too. So thank you for the insight. We appreciate you both. And keep in mind, if you have not heard our other podcasts as well, we're available on all of the major podcast platforms and always on video, jordansguardianangels.org. So thank you both. Appreciate you. And we look forward to partnering more and providing more information for our families. So thanks so much.